it's either going to be really bad or it's going to be okay.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started here. President Walter is running a few minutes late. He asked that we go ahead and kick things off. So we are going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Village Board on Monday, May 15th, 2003 at 7 o'clock in the Germantown Village Hall Boardroom. Notice is given, or this meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 1983 and 1984 of the Wisconsin statutes in such form that it will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. We'll do a roll call and then we will elect a chair pro tem once we're done with the roll call.
Trustee Baum. Trustee Hudson.
Here.
Trustee Kaminsky.
Here.
Trustee Rick Miller. Trustee Jan Miller.
Here.
Trustee Myers.
Here.
Trustee Nyrather.
Here.
Trustee Pieper.
Here.
And President Walter is late.
All right, so we'll look for a motion. to
Make a
appoint-
motion to,
Nominate Rick Miller as
well, she beat me to the punch.
second.
All right,
Second.
we have a motion and a second to have trustee Miller, Rick Miller, to run the meeting in President Walter's absence. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries.
That's
Trustee Miller, turn it over to you. Start with pledge.
All right, with that, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Everyone stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all. Thank you. President's report. We have one item, commendation for Friends of Germantown Canine. Is there a presentation?
Thank you. The Germantown Canine Fundraising Organization has been in existence for over a decade and has raised thousands of dollars for the Germantown Canine Unit. The current members were recently able to obtain 501c3 status for the organization and start hosting multiple large-scale fundraising events throughout the year. Their fundraising efforts are so successful that the Germantown Police Department is currently able to financially support 2 canine units, one on second shift and one on third shift. Without the hard work of the Germantown Canine Fundraising Organization, the police department would not be able to maintain such a successful canine program. The Germantown Police Department wants to commend the above members of the Canine Fundraising Organization and their contribution to improving the quality of life in the village of Germantown. I would ask the members of the Canine Committee to come forward at this time, please. I would add to this, the success our program has had is really unmatched in this area. The number of arrests that we've been able to secure, the drug arrest, our dogs are all dual purpose dogs. So they do drug arrests, they do tracking, they do attack work. And the program has been immensely successful. But as you can imagine, it's very expensive. The funds that we get come from the fundraising committee. They do large fundraising events, but they also do just smaller ones. It seems like routinely they had one Sunday, Mother's Day. So just an outstanding job that they do with their continued efforts, and we're very grateful, very blessed for everything they do for our department. So I would just ask you to come forward as I read off your name. Sue Schilter. Gail Trapp. Meg Cutts. Joanne Gint. Lindsay Sama. Jeff Sama. Linda Zawicki. Rita Hubrick could not be with us today. Would you be seeing Rita that you could? Again, thank you for all your hard work and all your efforts. Good job.
I know.
Thank you so much for your fine efforts. Without your help, it probably wouldn't be possible to have the K-9 unit. So we appreciate that. With that, we'll move on to appointments. We have 2 appointments tonight, one for the Board of Review, Sam Schneider, 5-year term, and one for Planning Commission, Robert Williams, 3-year term.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion
5.
for the appointments. Any discussion? Are the 2 members here tonight?
Sam's not here.
All right, with that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee and department reports, and we'll start with trustee Kaminsky.
Microphone. Public Works will meet in this room on June 7th, which is a Wednesday at 5:30 PM.
All right, trustee Hudson.
Public Safety will meet in this room on Monday, June 5th at 6 PM.
And general government and finance will meet on Monday, June 19th at 6 PM in this room. Yes, Administrator Krecklow.
Just wanted to mention there's a tourism commission meeting this Wednesday at 5 PM.
There is. Okay,
Here in Village Hall.
glad I know about that.
I'm sorry.
Great, thank you. I'm informed now. With that, is there any other events of public interest? Yes, Chief Snow.
Microphone's not on.
There we go. I'll
There you
get that figured out one of these days. So the county law enforcement agencies are happy to announce that we are bringing the memorial service back to Washington County Fairgrounds. First time we've done it in several years. That will be May 17th at 7:00 PM at the Washington County Fair Park Pavilion. And at that time, we will be recognizing Germantown Police Officer Robert Backus. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to mention that there is an event coming up this weekend, and that's My Fest. My Fest will be held basically on the corner of Squire and Mequon Road behind Starbucks. And that will be run Friday, the 19th, Saturday, the 20th, and Sunday, the 21st. So hope to see you out there. Trustee Jan Miller.
I have an event I'd like to announce. It's the 2023 Bethlehem Blazer Dash, and it is at 9 a.m. This Saturday, the 20th. It's a 5K run or a 2-mile walk, or for kiddos, it's only a 1/4 mile, so they won't get exhausted. And there's free childcare. So the Blazer Dash is a dual fundraiser supporting the development of children's outdoor play space for both Bethlehem's childcare and the Germantown Public Library. So if you have time in the morning for a little quick walk or run, please join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Miller. Anything else for announcements? If not, we'll move on to citizen input. Please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
My name is Lynn Schauer, and I live on Pawnee Court, and I'm going to try to make this quick because I was told I only have 3 minutes, so I may have to come back later on, but this would appear to most people who live here. I have a half acre land and I have a neighbor, we live in side by sides and I rent one side, I live in the other, and the other neighbor does the same thing, but she, the owner, doesn't live there. She has a new tenant that never raked their leaves, and what happened was, I have pictures, I showed them to Steve. My whole backyard, it's a half acre big, completely flooded. I lived there for 15 years, never had water. What happened when I had landscapers come, all the leaves froze, created a bed like you put a tarp over your land. And when the snow and cold came, that froze the leaves, and then the rain and warm weather came. And when it started melting, the water had nowhere, the land could not absorb the water from their yard. So it found its way into mine and flooded almost my whole backyard. Never had that before. Now, I called Steve and I looked up, what is a nuisance? A nuisance behavior includes an activity that unreasonably interferes with the use or quiet enjoyment of another resident. A behavior that is hazardous, noxious, or offensive, or one that is a violation of a local, state, or federal law. It does not apply to public property. It's also private property, your property. And a nuisance exists if there's a condition or activity that unduly interferes with the private use and enjoyment of a land or a public right. And if the interest invaded is the private use and enjoyment of land, then the nuisance is considered a private nuisance. This is Wisconsin state law. And also, I'm reading it in pieces, but a nuisance is something that annoys or wearing on the nerves by a persistent unpleasantness. It can invoke anger, interfere with the comfort and peace of mind in a regulatory environment. Every year, I had 7 trees cut because I can't rake the leaves anymore. I don't have the physical ability to do it. I have to spend $100 to clean the leaves off her 3 trees that leave this mess. I spend $100 to clean the whirlybirds from her trees, to clean them up so they don't clog up my gutters. And now I woke up the other morning, 4 weeks ago, all my downspouts were full, this big, this high, of seeds from the maple trees. The neighbor, I offered to even give her money to participate in paying to cut the trees. She refused to even acknowledge it. And I want to go by the law. I want the law to protect me. And in addition, there were snakes. When animals, you have leaves like that, animals and critters grow under them and cause a real major problem to your home and your house. That water was maybe only 5 feet away from my patios in the back. Is that it?
Time.
So,
It is your time.
I would like somebody to help. What do I do now? Because I would like, this person is ignoring the law. There is a nuisance law. It applies to my situation. What do I do?
Ma'am, I can tell you that during public comment, we hear your comments, but we cannot take any action on that tonight. However, the staff is here and has heard your comments, and we can discuss it with you. I guess Steve already knows about your situation. Is that correct?
Also, her big tree's growing through my evergreens and she won't cut the branches. It's almost 4 feet long already, so.
Understood.
So I wish somebody would help me with this or help me to get to pay for all this stuff.
Great, thank you.
Chris Yachek, N116W15041, Brownstone Court. At the end of the month, most of us will have plans to celebrate the unofficial beginning of summer with family and friends. While we look forward to this annual ritual, let us remember the real reason for the long weekend. On Memorial Day, we honor and never forget the brave men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. To honor those who paid the ultimate sacrifice, American Legion Post 1 will have a rifle squad accompanied by our chaplain visit each of the 6 cemeteries in Germantown. There will be a 3-volley salute followed by a short prayer at each cemetery. After the cemetery visits, there will be a short program at the Germantown Area Veterans Memorial starting at 11 a.m. The memorial is located on the corner of Freistadt Road and Park Avenue. At the conclusion of the program, there will be a free community lunch at Post 1, located 1/4 mile east of the memorial on Freistadt Road. All are welcome. Another opportunity to honor the fallen will be at Veterans Park, just north of the War Memorial Center on Milwaukee's lakefront. Volunteers will be placing 15,015 flags in the park in remembrance of all those killed in action from Wisconsin since the beginning of World War I. There will be a program at the park on Monday, May 29th, starting at 6 p.m. The field of flags will be on display from Saturday, May 27th through Tuesday, June 6th. If you are unable to attend these or any other program honoring the fallen, please consider taking some time during the weekend to remember all those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else wishing to come forward?
Good evening. Tom Steinbach, West 2, or, yeah, I don't even know my own address. West 204, North 10609 Hilltop Drive. This is regarding the Das Barrel Room Bar, Appleton Avenue and Willow Creek Road. Here we go once again. Outdoor music at DBR Bar, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, per their website. No frequency or date restrictions, no start time restrictions, no noise level restrictions by the village. On April 14th, the outdoor music started up again. My first question to you, our village trustees, is does this mean we will have to endure another summer of excessively loud music every weekend? In July of last year, we listened to a discussion in this room during a public safety committee meeting about the issue of excessively loud outdoor music coming from DBR Bar. We were told at that time that there was no permit for outdoor music issued for DBR because the village stopped issuing permits in 2016. My second question is why? Why were permits stopped for outdoor music? Technically, then, doesn't this mean that they are not allowed to have outdoor music at DBR at all because they do not have a permit to do so? DBR Bar does have a conditional use permit. However, there is no language in the CUP addressing outdoor music either. My third question, why not? Isn't this what a CUP is for? To permit special privileges to a business owner and set conditions and limitations. Doesn't it just make sense that any amplified outdoor music needs to be permitted? I'm asking for your help once again, as I did last year, and I'm being very explicit this time. We were told last year that the village attorney would be looking into the matter. We were also told there would be a hearing this spring on the CUP for DBR Bar. So my fourth question is, what follow-up action has taken place since last July? I have not been contacted, so I'm assuming the answer is that no action has been taken. I hope I'm wrong in my assumption. I know you are not obligated to answer or respond to my questions tonight. I do request, however, a prompt and complete response to these questions as outlined in this document. I am giving a copy of my comments and request for action to the village clerk. I ask that copies of this document be distributed to the trustees of the village board and the village president. I expect this matter to be addressed in the very near future. Frankly, I'm running out of patience and I'm getting very tired of calling the dispatcher. Because after calling so many times, I'm of the opinion now that it really doesn't matter.
Thank you, sir, for your comments.
There's a hearing, right, for the item 2 or 3 when the sewer pack comments can be made? Okay, so
come back for that. Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. Oh, God, sorry. Thank you. At a recent plan commission, the planning director presented some information about the boundaries for the sewer service extending into Richfield. And there's a problem with one of the maps, and that's map 7.11, which I'm not sure if it's going to be shown tonight or not. And at that time, I made comments that it should not be included in our 2050 plan, our comprehensive plan. And part of the reason is that it's bigger than the intergovernmental agreement, and the legal descriptions don't match. Our state statute says that that only if the county allows it and signs off on putting in another village's boundaries into your comprehensive plan, your own village's comprehensive plan, you can do that, but only if the county signed off on it. Well, the county only signed off on the IGA, not the 2050 plan sewer pack map 7111. So if that map is going to go into the comprehensive plan, a couple of things have to happen. Either permission needs to be gained from the county, or just leave it off altogether and just have it part of a report that makes it part of the, not part of the comprehensive plan, but part of the discussions and the presentations and things that occurred in order to get us to this point. So I maintain that this village would be out of compliance with the state statutes if you allowed that map 711 to go into the comprehensive plan. I'm not a lawyer, but the way I read it, it's pretty plain English in the statutes. Just passing it along. Okay, good.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else here for citizen input? It's on.
All right. Katie Coates, N135W20647 Meadowlark Lane, Germantown. Just want to bring up a point of kind of a pattern I've seen over the years with the board, with kind of starting off small, seemingly kind of innocent, and then things just keep kind of snowballing from there. As many of you know, I'm up in the northwest corner of Germantown, where there's a lot of new development with industrial parks that used to all be farmland. And initially, years ago, when that was all first changed, it was like, oh, don't worry, we're just changing this to mixed use zoning. We're not going to, put anything in your backyard. Don't worry about it. Well, then, 6 months later, a year later, oh, well, now we're going to change that mixed use zoning to industrial zoning, and so on. And it just keeps kind of, you start out one place and it keeps getting worse. So I'm just kind of seeing that again with this IGA with Richfield. Initially, the boundary was at 175. Had the whole big, year-long discussion or more about that. Setting that up, the referendum and everything. Now here, now we want to extend it west of 175. Is that a big deal? I don't know. But just kind of starting off at one place and not getting, sticking with what we're initially doing. My concern with that potentially, though, is again back to our private wells. The testing that was done with our private wells in our area that supposedly says that well 12 going in there isn't a big deal for us, which I don't buy. But just that tested it at the well capacity that's there currently. So my question would be, and I hope you guys can get an answer for this, now if this water sewer service area is extended even further into Richfield, is their water use higher? Is that burden higher on that well 12? And is that potentially, are you guys at some point, maybe it's not even this board, maybe it's in a few years, is somebody going to be like, oh, now we need higher capacity on this well, and you go to the PSC and lobby them for higher water usage? I don't know if that, my understanding was the capacity that's on there now is not permanent. It could be increased if the PSD agrees to it. So, you know, that the whole assurances we've had, your well's fine, we did all this testing, we did it we ran the well at the max water capacity that it can do in 24 hours or 72 hours, whatever it was. But now, if you guys are going to be using more water for Richfield, could we potentially be extending that water use and affecting our wells more than originally thought? And will there be more preliminary testing done before something like that would be okay? So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else that wants to come forward?
My name's Jason Jaguar. I live W202 and 10462 Appleton Avenue. I'm here to echo pretty much what my neighbor Tom had to say about the Doss Barrel Room and all the live music over there. We were assured last year something would be done. We get contacted and we have not been. I think we have a right for peaceful dwelling that's constantly being trampled on. He has not been forced to make any concessions to satisfy us and our right to peaceful dwelling. I believe it is a nuisance. We have a noise ordinance where the noise part cannot be enforced. Decibel reading that got thrown out and nothing was put in place of that. So the rules that apply to the residents, I have to assume that's there for the other residents to have peaceful dwelling, and we're not receiving it. We call the police out and we were told the last time they don't envy the police coming out because it's open to everybody's interpretation when you get there. So how do we enforce a noise ordinance when there is no way to enforce the noise? I am looking for some kind of satisfaction. He hasn't been forced to make any concessions, but we've had. Keep our doors and our windows closed during the summer and the spring. He can play that music from 6 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, as often as he wants to, as loud as he wants to. There's got to be something done about that. I don't know how it's not seen as a problem for us as the residents in the area. I'm just looking for some help with it. I don't want his revenue stream interrupted, but his profits should not come at our expense. I think it's unfair that it's been years now and nothing's been done. We haven't received any information, and I'm looking for some clarification and some help and something done permanently that would give everybody relief from it, as well as Mark. I'm sure he's not crazy about the cops coming to his bar 3-4 days a week. And we're tired of calling. So how do we get it squared away? That's kind of what I'm looking for. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. Anyone else for citizen input? If not, we'll move on to consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda Roman numeral 8 from A to G.
Second.
We have a motion to approve consent agenda items A through G. Any comments? Trustee Kaminsky.
I'd like to pull F, please.
All right. We'll pull item F. Are there any other comments, questions? All right, with that, we will now be approving items A through E and G, and we'll do roll call vote.
Aye.
Trustee Hudson.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky. Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Myers.
Aye.
Trustee Nyrather.
Aye.
Trustee Pieper.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Item F, Trustee Kaminsky.
Because it's been so long since we addressed this at GGF, I thought perhaps, Steve, if you could just give the 1-minute synopsis of why this is a really good idea.
All right, yeah, thank you. Well, as all aware, some of the
Mike.
years.
Mike.
You know what? All right, I'll use this one. For the past 2 years, the responsibilities of both finance and the clerk have been combined into one department, the village clerk treasurer department. And while that worked, fairly well for the past 2 years and allowed us to complete some key processes and make some improvements, it's also clear that that's an awful lot for one person to try to manage. So therefore, recommending to the village board that we separate those functions. And that would return the structure to basically as it was before 2021, with a finance director as well as a village clerk, and those functions being separated and operating independent of one another.
Thank you. Is there anything else, Trustee Kaminsky?
Nope, I just thought it would be important for people to be reminded of why we did that, because it's a rather significant change. And I'll make a motion to approve agenda item F.
Second.
All right, we have motion to approve item F. Any discussion? I can tell you this came through General Government and Finance in, let me see, that would be April, and it was overwhelmingly a yes for that. I mean, there's only 4 votes, but we were all very happy to split this up again. So, any other comments? Do we need roll call for this?
Yeah, part of the consent agenda.
All right,
so.
sounds good. Roll call vote.
Trustee Kaminsky, trustee Baum, trustee Hudson, trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
trustee Myers,
Aye.
trustee Nyrather,
Aye.
trustee Pieper,
All right. Motion carries. Okay, there is no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. Item A, ordinance to adopt an amendment to the Village of Germantown 2050 Comprehensive Plan to incorporate the intergovernmental agreement for the provision of municipal wastewater and water utility service between the Village of Richfield and the Village of Germantown, and to expand the sanitary sewer service area boundary, ordinance number 05-2023. That will have presentation by Director Retzloff.
Thank you, Trustee Miller. The 2050 Plan Amendment, subject of ordinance number 05-2023, starts with the Richfield IGA, also known as the Intergovernmental Agreement for the Provision of Municipal Wastewater and Water Utility Service between the Village of Richfield and the Village of Germantown. I will refer to that throughout the evening as the Richfield IGA. The proposed amendment includes language that explains what the IGA is and what it does, which is to extend municipal sanitary sewer and water utilities from the Freistadt Road at Goldendale Road intersection through a predominantly undeveloped area known as the Freistadt District, under Highway 41 and into the Village of Richfield, to provide a limited amount of sewer and water service to a 300-acre area known as the Northeast Corridor. The amount of service up to 0.4 million gallons per day of sewer capacity and up to 0.58 million gallons per day of water. The Northeast Corridor in the Village of Richfield is an area approximately 440 acres in size, as highlighted in green on the screen, located in the northwest quadrant of the Holy Hill Road at I-41 interchange. The IGA service area is the area highlighted in red, which is approximately 300 acres of development. In order to fulfill or implement the terms of the Richfield IGA, the Village of Germantown needs to get approval from SewerPAC, MMSD, and DNR to expand Germantown's sanitary sewer service area, the SSSA, into Richfield, and in the course of doing so, include other land in the Village of Germantown along the utility extension route to satisfy SewerPAC and MMSD sewer facility planning requirements. The proposed amendment in Ordinance 5-2023 addresses the process and the agencies involved in expanding Germantown's SSSA and the requirements to do so. So what exactly are those requirements? They include a formal application, which was prepared cooperatively between Germantown and Richfield staff and submitted to Sewer PAC in January 2023. And also, given the nature of the application, the timing, and also the limited amount of planned facility capacity under MMSD's 2050 facility plan, Sewer PAC gave us a specific set of criteria that the proposed expansion area must meet, including that the area be the smallest area necessary to provide service to the Richfield area and the intervening Germantown area. The expansion must be contiguous to the existing SSSA boundary. The expansion must contain all the properties to be served and through which the utility lines will be installed, and that there be no unserved property gaps, enclaves, or donut holes, if you will, within or resulting from the SSSA expansion. A couple other requirements include that the Village of Germantown and the Village of Richfield, they need to formally amend their respective comprehensive plans to include the Richfield IGA, the proposal to extend the utility services to justify the SSSA expansion request, and amend the MMSD facility planning area to include the Richfield IGA service area. And the final requirement is that Sewer PAC hold and sponsor a public hearing of our application, the Germantown Richfield joint application, and the Sewer PAC staff report. That hearing is scheduled for later this evening. Those last two requirements are obviously the reason that we're here this evening. So while I'm not going to get into or wade any further into the weeds about the actual SSA application, we do need to take a look at the proposed SSSA boundary expansion requested by the Village of Germantown and Richfield to implement the Richfield IGA. On the screen, the yellow area is in the Village of Germantown and includes those properties that meet the specific boundary requirements I just mentioned earlier. The green area is in the Village of Richfield that includes the properties that meet the boundary criteria and are in the 300+ acre IGA service area. This graphic is simply another graphic showing the proposed IGA boundary expansion relative to the existing Germantown SSSA. The existing service area is shown in blue, and the proposed expansion area is shown with the red hatching. This graphic is included in Sewer PAC's staff memorandum that analyzes and recommends approval of the proposed Richfield IGA SSSA amendment that is subject to the public hearing later this evening. Now, before I get any further into the specifics of our 2050 plan that is being proposed as a result of this IGA and the recommendation of Sewer PAC, I need to address some feedback that we received during the public hearing held on April 10th before the Plan Commission. Quite simply, the question is, if the Village of Germantown SSA needs to expand into Richfield to fulfill the IGA and meet specific Sewer PAC criteria that effectively limit the size of the SSA expansion area, why does the map within the 2050 plan amendment, map 7.10, have more area added to the SSA boundary than just the Richfield expansion? And the answer, quite simply, is that the 2050 plan amendment, we're essentially trying to kill two birds with one stone. We're setting the table for two boundary amendment proposals by Germantown. The first, to incorporate the Richfield IGA expansion, also known as the immediate SSA expansion amongst staff. The second boundary expansion is a future comprehensive SSSA expansion necessary to address other issues and Sewer PAC and MMSD recommendations that were made to the village staff throughout the process of their review of our Richfield IGA expansion. That second sewer service area expansion proposal from staff is expected later this fall and will address some outstanding issues and other recommendations, as I mentioned. This is map 7.10 in the 2050 plan amendment. It does include more area than what's proposed in the Richfield IGA. The Richfield IGA sewer service area expansion is highlighted in yellow. And the additional areas that are shown on the map, 7.10, include 6 different areas, sub-areas of the village that satisfy either an issue or a recommendation from Sewer PAC. The 7th area, item number 7, is shown in a green triangle in the far southwest corner, is an area that was actually recommended for inclusion in the amendment by the Utility Advisory Board. If necessary, we can get into the details of those particular areas, but suffice to say, the areas total a net increase of just under 1,100 acres to be added to the sewer service area as part of the second sewer service area expansion that will be proposed later this year. The Plan Commission resolution to recommend approval of the proposed amendment does not include area number 7, that area recommended by the Utility Advisory Board. Their recommendation came after the Plan Commission made their recommendation. And this is an area that was not proposed by staff nor considered by the Plan Commission. So if the board is interested in adding that, we'll have to add that to their final action. The specific issues that the second SSA amendment will address include fixing land use and projected sewer flow inconsistencies between the MMSD 2050 facilities plan and our own Village of Germantown 2050 plan. This is due primarily because the MMSD 2050 facilities plan was prepared in 2021 using Germantown's former 2020 plan and some best guesses for 2050 land uses and sewer flows throughout the village. And also, and maybe more importantly, there has been no comprehensive update of Germantown's sewer service area plan since 1983. All of the amendments that have been made since then, since the original plan was prepared, have been incremental increases, but no comprehensive update of the overall sewer service area plan, which MMSD has indicated that the Village of Germantown really needs to do before we go any further beyond this immediate Richfield IGA sewer service area amendment. A second issue that needs to be addressed is the DNR signed off on the construction of sewer main in Country Air Drive, basically from Renwood to Freudenfeld Park, in order to take advantage of the fact that Country Air was being reconstructed at the time. The sewer main was installed in the road, but outside of the sewer service area. DNR allowed that to take place with the understanding that the village would not actually connect to that sewer main unless and until there was a sewer service area amendment to expand that area and incorporate it into the sewer service area. And finally, and more importantly, the third reason for the secondary sewer service area amendment is that we need to be more proactive in our planning and move away from the piecemeal process that we've followed basically since 1983 in expanding our sewer service area. Both MMSD and Sewer PAC have recommended that the village look at its 2050 plan and prepare a sewer service area expansion beyond the Richfield IGA that incorporates areas in the village that the village expects to develop in the near term. And those are the areas that we have shown on map 7.10 highlighted in red. And that's the reason why there are additional areas shown on the 2050 plan amendment map beyond just the Richfield IGA sewer service area. Now, with regard to the 2050 plan amendment itself, I'm not going to read through the text amendments. You can read through those if you haven't already. Chapter 4, we're adding text under the sanitary sewer system heading on page 32. Chapter 7, we're adding text as well. We're also inserting a couple of new maps, including map 7.10 that we've just discussed, and map 7.11, the MMSD sanitary sewer service area, a planning area. This is a map that was subject to a comment made earlier this evening. We've included this in our plan simply at the request of MMSD to acknowledge that we need to include in our quote unquote planning area for MMSD that additional area in Richfield that would be the basis for the Richfield IGA service area expansion. Unfortunately, what we were told is that we need to include the entire section within which the sewer service area expansion for the Richfield IGA is included, and not piecemeal or just simply draw around the boundary of the IGA service area. So that's why the graphic shows a complete section, an area that doesn't mean that sewer service area would be expanded beyond the service area subject to the IGA. The IGA would have to be amended in order to expand the sewer service area as one prerequisite before that could happen. And it's not contemplated at this point as part of the Richfield IGA. Finally, in Chapter 8, the implementation plan, we're revising a table and revising some objectives and action steps to address cooperation with SewerPack, DNR, MMSD, and others through the process of evaluating our sewer service area and expansions into the future. The Plan Commission did consider the proposed amendment and passed Resolution 1-2023, recommending that the Village Board enact Ordinance 5-2023 to adopt the proposed amendments to the Village of Germantown Comprehensive Plan attached as Exhibit 1 to the ordinance. And with that, I'll entertain any questions from the board.
Board, any questions? Trustee Jan Miller?
Good evening, Jeff. So you can stay on that slide. Why have we not had any sewer evaluation since 1983? Is that what you called it?
We haven't had a comprehensive update to the sewer service plan for the village since the original was adopted. We've processed, I believe, 4 or 5 separate sewer service area boundary expansions. Since then, that were done at the time a specific either development proposal was made and the sewer service area needed to be expanded to accommodate that development, or the village had a desire to expand that for pending, in one case, a TIF district down in the Willow Creek Business Park. Beyond that, we haven't done any real comprehensive sewer service area planning, other than, frankly, what was in the original 2020 plan that showed a boundary area that has been added on to as part of the 2050 plan as shown in this particular graphic.
So the 2020 plan had this graphic in it?
No, it had a graphic that basically showed the blue area.
And what is the reason for adding the 7 or up to 7 Village Germantown quadrants? I'm going to call them quadrants because they're all different shapes.
Let me get to my list here. The 7 quadrants or areas, again, are recommended by staff and now the Plan Commission, or 6 of the 7, the seventh being recommended by the Utility Advisory Board, to address, for example, area number 4. That area is part of the Country Air and Friedenfeld neighborhoods. That's the area within which the sewer main was extended along Country Air. So we really need to include that area in the sewer service area in order to tie in Friedenfeld Park into that sewer main for the planned park improvements and future development in that particular area. The other areas, area number 1 is the Holy Hill Gateway and Isabel Farms area that staff expects development pressure and proposals in the near term. Area number 2 is in the Freistadt district west of I-41. Again, an area that we expect and have had development requests already concerning that particular area. Area number 3 is down in the Lannon-Mequon Road corridor area near the Appleton Avenue intersection. That area too is an area that we expect and have received development requests, if you will, concerning that particular area. Area number 5 is the area along Division, just south and east of the Division, Fond du Lac Avenue intersection. It's essentially the Germantown DPW, existing DPW property. There's been discussion about that possibly being used for a future police station site. And the staff thought it would be best to add that area to the sewer service area in anticipation of that future development if it takes place. Area number 6 is actually an area that we're removing from the sewer service area. It's an area that's comprised mainly of very deep and narrow rural size residential lots where homes are constructed along Freistadt Road, and the back ends are either wetland or floodplain, and the development potential is really non-existent. So we're going to be taking that area out of the SSSA. And again, area number 7 is an area, it's a very small area, 2.5 acres, that was recommended to be included by the Utility Advisory Board. Frankly, I could not find any reason or justification that was discussed at the time that recommendation was made, why that should be added. Given my familiarity with it, I would not recommend that we include it as part of the SSA. It's 2.5 acres, and pretty much most of the backside is either in wetland or floodplain and undevelopable. It's also on the other side of Lannon Road. It's not a convenient location to extend sewer service to an area that has probably an acre of net buildable area on it. So that covers the 7 areas that are proposed, in addition to the Richville IGA area highlighted in yellow.
Is the map number 1 that we received from Sewer PAC going to be included in the 2050 plan?
No.
And why not?
That map, I can bring that up here. That map is part of the Sewer PAC memorandum that their staff prepared in support of their review and recommendation concerning our request to expand the sewer service area for the Richfield IGA service area. There's no reason to include it in our 2050 plan. The maps that we're proposing to include in the 2050 plan amendment effectively include that area already.
I would just say that your map 710 looks very convoluted, and in your words, you wanted to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And I think that we need to keep it simple about this expansion, and you admitted you have to continue to work on this in the fall. So you're still gathering information and getting proposals from developers doesn't mean that anything has been brought forward to the Plan Commission, unless I missed the order in which that should happen. Is that right?
Yes and no. Yes, there's work to be done. Sewer PAC and MMSD indicated to the Village of Germantown that we need to do a much better job of pre-planning for sewer service area expansions and not continue the pattern of piecemealing things like we have since 1983. We need, while the village has capacity in its own system, we don't stand alone. We rely on MMSD and their facilities to accommodate our flows to their plant. And so they need to know what's coming out of the Village of Germantown, what is going to be coming out in the near term once development takes place. And they need that not just for the Village of Germantown, but all of the other 30+ communities or municipalities, I forget what the number is, that sends sanitary flows in their direction. And so we're trying to entertain and do a better job of just that. We would have liked to include some of this now as part of the Richfield IGA sewer service area expansion, but we were essentially told, no, we can only accommodate, the immediate sewer service area that's required to implement the Richfield IGA, which is what we did, and we worked with Richfield and applied for the sewer service area expansion that's subject of our application and the public hearing later this evening. But that's separate from what we're doing with the 2050 plan. We're putting down the groundwork and again, my terminology, set the table for not only the Richfield IGA sewer service area expansion, but the other one that we need to do later this year to complete our commitment to do a better job and come through with a comprehensive sewer service area analysis and expansion request.
So what I'm hearing you say is this map of 7.10, is not complete.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that it is complete. And at this point, it is complete. These are the areas that we would like to add. We just can't do it as part of this particular amendment, the Richfield IGA amendment.
Right. So then why do we have all the other stuff in there?
You're talking about two different processes and items.
Okay.
There's the comprehensive plan, which, because Sewer PAC and MMSD have suggested to us that really when you're going to be looking over the next handful of years, the 2050 range, what do you anticipate potentially being within your service area?
Right.
That's what's reflected on the exhibit that's before you right now. That's the area that we anticipate somewhere in the next, 25 years, give or take, is likely going to be developed with the need for sanitary sewer. It may change. Obviously we anticipate it probably will, but that's what you're looking at here. The other item, which is the second piece of the agenda, item number 2 and 3 on the agenda this evening, is the actual request to extend the sanitary sewer service area specifically for the service to Richfield as part of the IGA. That is only the piece that is the the red that's on the map here, and then it's not colored in this particular case, and Jeff is going to confuse me by jumping around. Basically all of the yellow that is on the map that's in front of you there. That is the specific request to Sewer PAC we'd like to provide service now or soon to do that. It's not future looking, it's not long-term planning, this is what we need to do presently. Certainly in Jeff's mind and in my mind, there's a lot of sense to just say, hey, why don't we just include all of those areas that we anticipate are going to be included as part of our request now? But both MMSD and Sewer PAC have both said that no, we'd like you to do a little bit more long-range planning and looking out before we're going to accept those additional areas within the sewer service area. They want to focus on just the specific Richfield IGA component, and at their request, we're complying, and that's why you're seeing that discrepancy. But they are two separate documents, two separate issues. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. Now my next question, unless anybody, are we okay? All right. You have on your last page 6 of 6, and this is the amendment, correct? Page 6 of 6.
My pages aren't numbered that way, so if you could
okay.
just refer to the what's
All
the
right,
content
it's
of the page.
the objective number 4, and you have including Village of Richfield and Village of Menominee Falls in the language being added.
Yes.
However, I don't see Menominee Falls on any of these maps. Is that important?
Only from the standpoint that we currently serve Menominee Falls with sewer service area. It was more of a house cleaning sort of thing to add the agencies, municipalities, what have you, that we would be or need to cooperate with in the future, and those that we currently deal with sewer service sanitary wise. That's all.
Um, it, in the, in chapter 7, text and map amendments, it says in the second paragraph, the agreement is to provide limited sewer and water utility services in the northeast corner. And the area is approximately 440 acres, although we've already discussed it being 310 acres. So I wanted to make sure we had that number correct. It's under chapter 7, it says.
Right. Yeah, the northeast corridor area is approximately 440 acres located in that particular location.
But is that what the IGA says?
No, but frankly, I don't know that we need to include the details of the IGA in the plan amendment. If the board felt it was important to do so, we could add that the IGA is intended to serve just a subset of that. That is approximately 300 acres in size, if that's what you would like to do.
Yes. Are we including the IGA itself in the 2050 plan?
No. We're acknowledging that it exists and we're explaining what it is, what it does, and who's involved. But it's not being incorporated as a component of the 2050 plan. It seems unnecessary.
Well, it's pretty much going to change our landscape, so I think it's, the whole amendment is around the IGA. Is that not right?
No, the amendments that are proposed include acknowledging that the IGA exists, what it's about, what it's for, and delay the basis for the sewer service area amendment application. It's also to lay the groundwork for, as we discussed probably ad nauseum, the secondary sewer service area amendment proposed by staff. Frankly, I don't see the need to include the details of the intergovernmental agreement as part of our comprehensive plan. But if the board wants to do that, we certainly can.
It's in perpetuity as I read it. So that would take us to 2050.
Is that a question for me?
No, it's a statement.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'm just. What, Dennis? Okay. So those are the questions I had. It also says that this ordinance is adopted this first day of May, and that should be updated to the 15th.
Yeah, it actually has been. It just, the packet had the old ordinance from when this was originally scheduled for the May 1st meeting. The clerk currently has an updated version of the ordinance with the correct date for signatures. So, thank you.
So I would like to see the IGA somewhere in the 2050 plan. So everybody's on the same page going forward with development. So I'd like to make a motion to add the IGA to our 2050 plan.
We actually don't have a motion on item A yet.
Oh.
I need a motion before we can move forward.
Can you clarify that, Mr. President? You want a motion on this?
A motion on agenda item A.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance to adopt an amendment to the Village of Germantown 2050 Comprehensive Plan to incorporate the IGA agreement as presented in item A of the agenda tonight.
I thought that was under C, Mr. President. We would.
All right, we have a motion. Steve?
I'm sorry if it, I just wanted to clarify for the trustees, there are two different items. One, under A, there is an amendment to the 2050 land use plan. Item C is a resolution requesting an amendment to the sanitary sewer service area. So there are two different items before you for action tonight that are related to each other, but they are different as Director Retzlaff has explained.
So this motion is to include the map 7.10, which has new areas that are potentially able to be developed with sanitary sewer and water service. That's the gray areas, or I'm sorry, the tan areas in there. Now, as I understand it, item 6 is the area that's going to be removed. Item 7 is not part of the motion right now. If you want to include that small little portion, we would have to have an amendment to this motion.
That is not included in my motion, no.
So yes, the IGA area is involved in this. However, there is expandable, not expandable, but there's areas that are, logically going to be developed, like Area 4, Freistadt Road and Country Air Drive by Friedenfeld Park. We already have some sewer lines there. Obviously, we want to include that in our plan.
Correct.
That's all this is just including it in the 2050 plan for potential water and sewer service. Are there any other comments or questions? If not, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed, raise your hands, please. For you opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item B, public hearing on proposed Germantown and Richfield sanitary sewer service area amendment. Do we have a formal public hearing?
And actually, I think what I'd suggest to the board is we do have Mr. Joel Dietl from Sewer Pack who is here, who could, I think, provide some comments about the process and kick the hearing off with that.
Okay. Yeah, please come forward. During the public hearing, you'll have an opportunity to speak.
Perfect.
Good evening, everyone. Yep, good. My name is Joel Dietl. I'm the Chief Land Use Planner at Sewer PAC. That's the Southeast Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. It's our agency's responsibility to coordinate and prepare these sewer service area amendments. That authority was delegated to us by the DNR, and it's set forth in the Wisconsin Administrative Code. And it comes from a requirement to identify sewer service areas for all publicly owned sewage treatment plants in the region. Let me take a step back. I'm doing a short introduction. If anybody wants me to give a longer one, just let me know, because I could go back farther into the federal law where the state law comes from. But I'm just going to stick with the administrative code. So within this administrative code, it identifies the requirement that for every publicly owned sewage treatment plant in the state, the sewer service area be identified around that sewage treatment plant. The code also states that that sewer service area has to be based on a 20-year population projection. For certain areas of the state, this work is done by regional planning commissions like Sewer PAC. Other areas of the state, this work is done by the DNR. And actually, I should clarify that for Southeast Wisconsin, this work was actually designated to Sewer PAC, delegated to Sewer PAC by the governor back in the early 1980s. So based on that administrative code, we've prepared these sewer service area plans since the early 1980s. There was a note earlier on tonight that Germantown's sewer service area plan is from 1983. It is one of the oldest ones that we have that has not been comprehensively or fully updated since. It's always been our recommendation and the DNR's recommendation that these plans be updated every 10 to 20 years. So this plan is 40 years old. So that was one of the big reasons why staff recommended, Sewer PAC staff recommended that there be this full update. Village staff, both village staffs informed us of the urgency for getting this immediate area addressed in the sewer service area amendment. So Sewer PAC staff agreed to separate the two issues, to have one immediate sewer service area amendment to address this Richfield area, and then a full update of the entire Germantown sewer service area that includes these additional 6 areas. And then we would prepare that full amendment later this year. So for this immediate sewer service area amendment, I should probably also mention too, just to be clear, our agency is only advisory. We can only recommend and suggest. We cannot require. However, I don't want to underemphasize that either, because we've been doing this sewer service area planning for 40 years. And in all those decades, the DNR has only disagreed with us a handful of times, half a dozen times, doing probably over 100 sewer service area amendments. So I don't want to underemphasize that on one hand, Sewer PAC only recommends, but on the other hand, the DNR has only disagreed with Sewer PAC a few times. But technically and logically and officially and legally, we only advise. So staff recommended that it was comfortable with separating these two items. That was a request that was submitted to us back in January. We are dealing with just this immediate sewer service area amendment now. We will deal with the larger Germantown, the complete Germantown area later this year. In this immediate amendment area, there's guidelines. So the administrative code, which is the law, states that it has to be based on 20-year population projections, has to identify those areas which are logically and feasibly can be served with public sewer from that sewage treatment plant. Also, that it has to identify those areas which should not be provided public sewer and should not be developed because of the potential for adverse water quality impacts. And that we consider in Southeast Wisconsin as our environmental corridors. So this plan does 2 main things. These sewer service area amendments do 2 main things. Identify that sewer service area boundary, which is intended to be looking forward at least 20 years into the future. And then it also identifies these environmental corridors within which development, and that's the green areas on this map, within which sewer development should not be allowed. There's guidelines that go into more detail. These guidelines are in our regional water quality management plan, which was the very first plan we did back in the late 79 and early 80s, that provided a lot of details of how these individual sewer service area plans would be prepared. And it's also information contained on the DNR website. And those guidelines are what was mentioned earlier in this meeting as well. There can be or should be no holes or islands of sewer service area. And where the public sewer is proposed to go, it should be entirely located within the sewer service area. So I want to be clear, it's not the law, it's not required by the administrative code, but it's long-standing policy by the sewer pack and the DNR to do this, not have holes, not have little fingers of sewer service area, and to encompass the sewer pipe, the proposed sewer pipe within the sewer service area. And there's reasons for it. I'm dealing with an amendment right now. That's one of the reasons I'm late. For the Village of Salem Lakes, they're extending pipes outside their sewer service area. Shouldn't have been allowed, but the pipe was already there, so people are connecting up to it. It should have been inside the sewer service area. Now they want to fix those pipes. All that work is on hold while we do a sewer service area amendment for them. So there's real reasons why we have these guidelines, but I want to be clear, they are only guidelines. So the plan that we prepared, the staff memorandum that we prepared, it goes into the history, not the history, it goes into the details of this particular sewer service area amendment. So it's approximately 730 acres that are being added to the Germantown sewer service area. We didn't break up the acreages by the part that was in Germantown and the part that was in Richfield, because all of this is part of Germantown's sewer service area. There were, from a planning standpoint, a possibility that Germantown could have had their own sewer service area. Richfield could have had their own, but that would add more time and complexity to the sewer service area amendment. And it really is Germantown's first and highest ability to say they like that idea or not, because it would be like an addition to the Germantown sewer service area. So again, staff had agreed, both villages and sewer pack staff agreed, no, it makes more sense to do this all as Germantown's sewer service area. And with the big point being that it's my understanding that the pipes that will be extended, the sanitary sewer pipes that will be extended into Richfield, will be owned by Germantown. So that makes even more sense that this is a Germantown sewer service area, even though it extends into Richfield. And that it's not uncommon that happens into towns. It is rare that it happens into villages, from one village to another, but there are small exceptions or examples of that. Cedarburg and Grafton, Port Washington, and Saukville. So it's not totally unheard of that this can happen. So we've identified that sewer service area. This map shows what it would look like once it's all said and done, approved by all the agencies. Again, the process that goes into these sewer service area amendments, the administrative code only requires that there be a public hearing. Doesn't say what kind of process. That's what our regional plan and the sewer service area plans we've done since then go into those details, and that DNR website goes into those details. And those details and guidelines, like should really say guidelines, mentioned that it should be adopted by the local community or communities first after the public hearing. Then it should be considered for adoption by the Regional Planning Commission. Then it should be adopted by the DNR. And in this particular case, it also needs to be adopted or approved by the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, because they're the owners of the sewage treatment plant. So that's the big picture process. The sewer service area change shown as if it was a completed and adopted by everybody would show on that map on the screen right there. The corridors are shown, and to the best of our knowledge, all of that proposed interceptor sewer that's going to go to Richfield is located within that proposed sewer service area. I mentioned it was 730 odd acres in size. There is some population that's some future residential that's envisioned in primarily the Germantown part of this area. Total population of like 4,500 is being proposed to be added upon full development of this area. We compare that to our population projections in our regional plans, and it is a little bit low. but that is not necessarily an issue or a concern. The major issue or concern is if it was high, then that would mean that there's potentially a capacity issue at the sewage treatment plant, because their facility plan for the sewage treatment plant should also be based on the same population projections. But if it's below, that just means there's more capacity in those pipes in that treatment plant. So staff had no concerns or issues with that. Again, it doesn't happen often, but it has happened before that the population projection for the community is a little bit lower than our regional population projections. But as I mentioned, it's usually not an issue. It's when it's over that it can be and sometimes is an issue. Both Germantown and the MMSD have indicated that they have capacity in the pipes that are existing, the interceptor sewers, that would collect the sewage from this area and ship it all the way down to MMSD's plant. They indicate that there is capacity in those pipes and in that sewage treatment plant to handle this area upon full development. And as a further, I shouldn't even say, I wanted to say housekeeping, but it's not, because it's also as important as the sewer service area plan is updating the facility plan as well. Those facility plans, I don't know the state statutes and administrative code about those requirements nearly as well as I know the sewer service area, but I do know that they can look further into the future than just the 20 years. And that is why oftentimes that MMSD planning area is larger than the sewer service area, because they're looking at something, at the needs of that sewage treatment plant, which includes components that are designed for much more than 20 years. And it's my understanding, just recently talking to MMSD staff, that their commission doesn't like to do frequent amendments to their facility plans. They try to package them all at once and not have to do another one for a long period of time. So that's another reason why they're always trying to square off these areas to a larger area. One of our other staff, that was a suggestion from them to me, and I passed that along to all the village staff to square that area off. MMSD staff agreed with that as well. So yes, and that's the red area that's shown on there. So that's the planning area. That's also probably going to be the new district boundary for the MMSD. That is not the sewer service area boundary. You'd have to be in an approved planning area. You'd have to also be in the district, the MMSD district, and you'd also have to be in the sewer service area to be able to actually get sanitary sewer pipes extended to any of those areas. So at this point, it would only be able to be extended into the area that we've identified for this immediate sewer service area. So that's the big picture. I guess I'll stop there in case the village board has any questions. The only other thing I would add is what the next steps are, but I'll wait to see if there's any questions. If there aren't any, and I'll stay in case there are any questions later. Looks like there aren't. So then I would just mention the next steps. It's up to the village board to decide if they want to approve, and they would have to adopt, based on the guidelines of sewer pack and the DNR, adopt this as an amendment to the sewer service area plan for Germantown. If they choose to do so, then the next step would be, it would go to our planning and research committee, which is having their meeting the same night, which is very rare, the same night as our full commission on June 14th. And if that's adopted by the, recommended for approval by that planning and research committee, and if it's approved and adopted by the full commission, then it would be forwarded on to the DNR for their approval. And then the MMSD would have to adopt it, and then the sewers can be extended to that area. And then later this year, we would start a full update for the entire Germantown sewer service area. If the village board decides, and I talked to our executive director today, if the village board decides not to adopt this amendment or to table it in some way, it will not make our June meeting. It would have to go to a future date. And they won't act. The full commission has indicated in the past where this question has come up that they would not act without local approval and adoption of the sewer service area amendment. In this case, that would require actually approval by both Germantown and Richfield. So that's, I should mention that angle too. So because the sewer service area is extending into Richfield, the guidelines, not the state statute or not the administrative code, but the guidelines indicate that those other communities involved should also adopt these sewer service area amendments. Again, similar to when it's a city or village extending their sewer service area into a town. We always encourage the village or city to work with the town, encourage the town to adopt this as well. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But that's the same situation here. We would encourage and recommend that the village of Richfield adopt this as well, because without their approval, those pipes would not be able to be built in Richfield as well. So that's their role. My understanding is their village board consideration of this amendment is this week, Thursday, and I will be there as well. That's it. Unless there's other questions, I'll stay if any questions come up later.
All right, thank you. I will yield the chair now to President Walter, just for a preview that we were getting the background on item B. We have not started the public hearing yet.
We have a notice of the public hearing that I can read.
There's one in the back.
Okay. So not normal verbiage that we would have to open a public hearing? Okay. So we've given a presentation, given them some background. Anybody have any questions? If not, we can open the public hearing.
Just one suggestion. I know some residents have questions, just for reasons for efficiency for moving the meeting along. If you'd like, staff can kind of keep track of questions as they come up and then answer them all after after public comment is complete.
Okay.
And I also just wanted to note for everyone's awareness, the village board and the village administrator from Richfield are in attendance here this evening to hear the public comment as well.
Thank you, Chad. Perfect. Okay. Then we will open this public hearing by hereby stating, public hearing will be held on May 15th at 7 p.m. or later at the Germantown Village Hall located on Mequon Road in Germantown for the purpose of receiving public comment on or reaction to a proposed amendment to the Germantown Sanitary Sewer Service Area. The public hearing is being sponsored by the Village of Germantown, the Village of Richfield, and the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, better known as Sewer PAC. A draft report describing the proposed sanitary service area, including a map of the area, is on file at the offices of the villages, both Richfield, Germantown, and also at Sewer PAC. The sewer service area amendment will be explained at the public hearing as it was previously. Following the public hearing, the Germantown and Richfield Village Boards and Sewer PAC will determine whether any changes should be made to the sewer service area as presented at the hearing. Both Village Boards and Sewer PAC will then formally adopt the report at their regularly scheduled meetings and forward it to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for use by that department in reviewing and approving sanitary sewer extensions in accordance with the provisions of Chapter NR 110 of the Wisconsin Administrative Code. Interested citizens are encouraged to attend a public hearing, and further information was and can be obtained by contacting either of the village offices or Sewer PAC, which is in Waukesha, Wisconsin. So is there anyone with us tonight or joining us via WebEx that would like to make a public comment in regards to the Germantown and Richfield Sanitary Sewer Service Area Amendment? Yes, ma'am. Are you able, do we have a microphone?
Yeah, it's on the stand.
Oh, could someone pass her the microphone so that it makes it easier for her to, thank you so much.
It did.
Is it working?
Yes.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay. I understand what's going.
there anyone else that wishes, thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward to provide comment for the public hearing on the Germantown and Richfield Sanitary Sewer Service Area Amendment?
Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. If you take a look at the 2020 comprehensive plan for Germantown, you'll see that we were supposed to have a population of 30,000 by then. This projection was from SewerPAC. Well, our actual population went from 18,000 in 2000 to just barely 21,000 in 2022. That's only 3,000 people. So how could they be so off? Well, I took a look at the data, and it's being pulled from the national census. And the recommendation, from what I could tell in their letter, says that by 2050, our population will be around 35,000. If you read in the data analysis, UWM doesn't use any of the census data anymore because they changed the methods in which they counted things. And so they just take 2019 information and they project that forward. Now we've had, as this lady has said, we've had a lot happen since 2019, a lot with COVID, Operation Warp Speed, lockdowns, all of those things have contributed to people with not being able to work due to disabilities. And excess death has increased between 10 and 30% if you look at different reports. We've got a current administration who's opened up the borders to the south, and there's at least 7 million illegal people in this country today. And of course, there's a little matter of the war over in Europe. So with all this mayhem and chaos, using the data that was only correct through 2019 seems a little quaint at best. So I question, it's not SewerPAC's fault, it's what they've got. But I question the numbers. Additionally, while it may be factual to say that the sewer system can manage up to 27,000 people, that's from the memo, there should also be the consideration of the water utility. They are related to each other. In a discussion with the PSC recently, I've been told that the water system is under its capacity and has been so for a number of years. And even with the additional well 12, the system will continue to be under capacity, and that's even before we've extended to Richfield. And I know that there's been lots of conversations by people within the village about this, and we're about to make it worse. So in considering all of this, I'm asking SewerPAC to rethink their recommendation, take a look at the projections based on what actually has happened since 2019, and not what the census people say and projecting that out, and take a harder look at the consequences. The water is vital to us all. And if it is under capacity and continues to be under capacity and then becomes extended and under further pressure, no pun intended, that's a problem for all of us, including the Richfield. What was that?
3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes is up. And please don't let them build any more ugly warehouses. Okay, we have enough of those.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time to speak in regards to the public hearing for the Germantown and Richfield Sanitary Sewer Service Area Amendment? Tom Steinbach, W204 North 10609 Hilltop Drive. I'll be very specific. I have a concern about the costs. And by that, I mean, the village has been working on this project now for what, 2 years, maybe 3? I would like to know, has the village of Richfield been billed for any of the staff time that's taken place here at Village Hall? Because I'm sure it's been significant. We need to account for that. I am not on sewer and water, but I know that there's staffers here at the Village Hall that I'm paying the salary of through my taxes. So my specific question is the village accounting for, keeping track of all the costs and expenses, labor costs, hard costs that have been incurred? And has any of that been billed back to the village of of Richfield. Because frankly, I think, you know, we are working cooperatively with the village of Richfield, yes. But why should we as a village incur any costs in this? So I would appreciate an explanation on how we are recouping our costs. Have we recouped costs so far? If not, what is the plan to do so? Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time to speak in regards to the public hearing that is for the Germantown and Richfield Sanitary Sewer Service Area Amendment? Anyone else? Anyone online?
There's one person online, but they're not indicating they want to speak.
All right, one more time. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward to speak at the public hearing for the Germantown and Richfield Sanitary Sewer Service Area Amendment? And this public hearing is now closed. Yes?
Can we make comments?
No.
Not at a public hearing.
If you want to make comments, you can make them during the discussion of the resolution. That would be the time to make them. All right, that takes care of new business item B. So that would take us then to C, unless you want to answer the questions. Let's do that. I'm sorry, I'm skipping a part. So Mr. Krecklow has been taking notes and will garner some of the answers to the questions of those residents that came forward and had some. So.
So, several of the questions related to costs of the expansion and the effect on taxes. According to the terms of the intergovernmental agreement, the Village of Richfield pays for all of the costs for expansion of the sewer and water system. And that includes all of the hard costs for construction as well as the soft costs for engineering, planning, design, survey work, legal work, everything that is involved. The one exception to that is where we acquire where we decide instead of acquiring an easement for the sewer and water lines, we acquire a right of way for the purpose of building a road in Germantown in the future. Then the Village of Germantown pays 50% of the right of way acquisition costs, and the Village of Richfield pays 50% of the acquisition costs. In addition, we are tracking staff costs for the Public Works Director who handles engineering on the work, the village attorney working on the legal agreements, and as well as the Community Development Director when he is spending time working specifically on the Richfield IGA with the intent of passing those costs on to Richfield at the completion of the project. So the short answer to the effect on taxes is that there's no increase costs passed on to the taxpayers as a result of this expansion. All of the costs are being paid for by the Village of Richfield for the expansion. When they are on Village of Germantown sewer and water, the costs related to operations of producing the water and distributing it to water utility users in Richfield, and then collecting the sewage from Richfield and transmitting that through our system to MMSD will be billed to users within Richfield. So they will be getting quarterly utility bills just like customers in Germantown, and those utility bills will cover all of the costs of the operating costs of the services that are being provided to Richfield customers, and will also include a rate of return that is used to accumulate funds to replace the capital, the infrastructure that's being we'll be putting in place over the next few years when eventually that does wear out. So there is no cost to Germantown taxpayers or utility payers from the project. And I think that covers all of the questions unless there's any feedback that SewerPAC has on the population projections, but I'm not able to answer those or respond to those questions.
All right. Then we'll go, before we go to item C, I apologize for being late. I was at a funeral for a friend of mine, someone that I had known for 47 years. So I apologize for being late to this meeting. That takes us to new business item C, which is the resolution adopting a Germantown Sanitary Sewer Service Area Amendment. And I'll read the resolution so everybody understands what it says. And it is for the state of Wisconsin, Village of Germantown, Washington County, resolution number 07-2023. The resolution adopting of a Germantown Sanitary Sewer Service Area Amendment. Whereas the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, better known as Sewer PAC, working in cooperation with the Village of Germantown, has prepared an amendment to the sanitary sewer service area for the Germantown area. And whereas the amendment is set forth in a Sewer PAC document entitled Amendment to the Regional Water Quality Management Plan, Village of Germantown and Evrons, dated response to request by the Village of Germantown to Germantown Sanitary Sewer Area, would be dated today. Whereas the Village of Germantown concurs with the amended sanitary sewer service area set forth in the aforementioned Sewer PAC document, now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Germantown Village Board of the Village of Germantown, Wisconsin do hereby adopt Sewer PAC's amendment to the Regional Water Quality Management Plan, Village of Germantown and Evrons, dated today's date, as a guide for the provision of sanitary sewer service within the Germantown area. And be it furthermore resolved that the village clerk is authorized and directed to transmit a certified copy of this resolution to the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. So that is the resolution as read. Board?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 07-2023, the resolution adopting of a Germantown Sanitary Sewer Service Area Amendment as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve? Trustee Hudson.
Yeah, just a point of my own clarification, please. This map does not include the 7 additional ones that we discussed earlier this evening, correct?
That is correct. As we indicated earlier, the 7 additional are part of what will be a future request at some point, presumably. The request specifically for the sanitary sewer service area amendment is just for the Richfield IGA, which is the red piece that's on the map in front of you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Further discussion? Trustee Chan Miller.
We had some questions about, but I didn't hear an answer about population. Does Sewer PAC have an answer about that, an adjustment for the population going forward in 2050?
Sure, absolutely, sir.
In regards to the population projections, our current practice our practice has always been to utilize the population projections from the last full update of the sewer service area plan and just keep adding to that whatever additional population comes from each individual amendment that has been approved over the years. It's one of the reasons why we recommend doing a full update of the sewer service area plans so that that population projection can be updated. We only do that for the full updates of the sewer service area, of the entire sewer service area. But in this case, as I mentioned, the population within this sewer service area, based on that original population from 83, with all the amendments since, is still under, and we looked at it from a reasonableness standpoint, is that additional population always is based on factors that we did in this amendment as well. How many developable acres are there? What are the planned land uses? What are the planned densities? So it's based on the community's adopted comprehensive plan, if it has that level of detail or additional information that's given to us. So that we believe that those population projections are still in the ballpark, but you don't know for sure until you do the full amendment. And so that's one of the reasons why, and I should have mentioned that earlier. It's one of the reasons why we encourage everyone to do the full amendments. But we do believe that it's in the ballpark and it's low. If it was the other way, if this adding all the amendments together would have put the population projection above our projection, our current newest projection, then we would have concerns. Then we might have recommended that you don't do this immediate amendment separately, you do it all together. The other part that I can mention in regards to our population projections, we do our own population projections. We don't use the states. We don't use anybody else's. We come up with our own. And what we do is we create a database based on quarter sections, U.S. Public Land Survey quarter sections. That's the level of detail that we go, not census tracts, not census blocks. We do quarter sections and assign populations based on the existing development and the amount of vacant developable land and what that land is planned for. So not surprisingly, many communities, because their comprehensive plan is looking into the future, especially nowadays, is hoping to promote mixed-use development, sometimes more affordable housing, which sometimes means smaller lots, that the plans envision a very high population projection based on that full development. And we have to be, that's in the administrative code, full development is the key. So we're identifying every square inch of vacant developable land based on the proposed land uses from the comprehensive plan, if it goes to that level of detail. And usually what we found out over the years is that those numbers are a little bit high. But for sewer service area planning, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Because you'd rather have excess capacity in the treatment plant and in your sewage, major sewage pipes, rather than overflows. So that's good enough. I'll stop there.
So does this number that you gave for population include the village of Richfield?
Yes. Although their area is not proposing very much residential at all.
Did you use the Village of Germantown 2050 plan? Calculating this?
Only approximately. They provided more detailed information for the sewage flow calculations, and that's the information that we used for the population projections as well. The village's comprehensive plan allows a lot of flexibility within those neighborhoods, identifies what the primary or principal plan uses are, but also has a long list of other uses that are, I forget what the phrase is, permitted or allowed land uses within those areas. So what the village staff came up, Germantown's village staff came up with is more details about that. So that actually identified more residential. So that's the bulk of that 4,500 people is in Germantown, based on more detailed land use identification in that sewer service area.
So you said that it's very, so is it rare to use your map in a comprehensive plan for a village?
If I had to say 50-50.
Okay.
It's part of the reason is how much detail the community wants to go into that issue or that element or aspect of the comprehensive plan. If they want to more concretely identify their urban service area, they usually will call it their urban service area, and then it will be slightly different than our sewer service area. If it's just, they understand that there's value to having that information in a comp plan and they want to do a sewer service area amendment someday, then they'll just put our sewer service area boundary in their plan.
Gotcha. And a sewer pack is an advisory entity. So this is your best assessment of our
Recommendations.
areas. Right,
Yep.
recommendations. And then my other question is for the Village of Richfield. Do you have or have not had a meeting with the Village of Richfield people? Your public hearing, do you have a public hearing?
It's Thursday.
You need to come to the microphone, please.
Okay.
Trustee Miller, we are not planning on having a public hearing. Our board is sitting here today as a part of the Germantown public hearing. And then tomorrow we have on our, or excuse me, rather on the 18th, this Thursday, we have Mr. Deedle coming back to give the same presentation that he gave here as an opportunity for our citizens to comment on the same.
Oh. And do you have an estimated cost for this service to Richfield?
You're talking about from Frystad Road to our northeast corridor?
Whatever is in the IGA to get you water and sewer, right?
Right now, we're working based on our engineer's recent survey and wetland delineation, and that will further inform our construction cost, ma'am.
So do you think it'll be higher than 40 million or?
One?
No, I don't.
So you're not having this, you informed your Village of Richfield people that this is their public hearing, right?
Our residents have been made aware of this meeting through our normal and common means of advertising for meetings, ma'am.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Mr. Nyrider, do you have your hand up? Okay. No further discussion? Roll call vote.
Trustee Baum,
Aye.
trustee Myers,
Aye.
trustee Hudson,
Aye.
trustee Kaminsky, trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
trustee Jan Miller,
No.
trustee Nyrather,
Aye.
trustee Peeper,
No.
President Walter.
Aye. Motion passes 7-2. Next item under new business is item D, Accurate Surveying and Engineering Agent for Bast Family LTD Partnership, property owner located at West 204 North 13917 Goldendale Road, one lot certified survey map for extraterritorial plat review in the town of Germantown. To give us some more information, background on this new business item D, we'll turn the meeting over to our Community Development Director, Jeff Retzloff. Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Bass Family Limited Partnership is seeking approval of a certified survey map for property on Goldendale Road, just south of Fond du Lac Avenue, as shown on the screen. The parcel after right-of-way dedication for Goldendale Road would be 3 acres in size and consistent with the town's agricultural zoning district that applies. The only reason the village is involved in this matter is because of our extraterritorial platting authority that we exercise within 1,000 feet of our boundary. It just so happens that on the west side of Goldendale Road is the village of Germantown. On the east side is the town of Germantown. So well within the 1,000 feet, and we have approval authority. The Plan Commission reviewed this and has recommended approval of the certified survey map, subject to a couple of conditions. One condition actually with a couple of parts concerning not requiring right-of-way dedication for Cedar Lane and correcting the village clerk signature page. With that, again, the Plan Commission recommendation is to approve the CSM.
Make a motion to approve the CSM as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve new business item D? No discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Next item under new business is item E, update on utility billing system and summer sewer service credit. Give us some more information and background on this is our budget director, Matthew Uselding. Sorry to murder your last name.
No, that's all right. Yeah, so I've been in communications with Tyler Technologies regarding testing the summer sewer credit mod for the utility billing module. After consulting with them, we're going to have testing on May 30th and May 31st, going over the mod, and ensuring it's applying correctly to all accounts that it's supposed to be applied to. If the mod is successful, we will have Tyler staff out here the final week of June, so it'll be June 26th through the 29th. With that, the utility bills will go out about a week later than anticipated. Typically, utility bills go out the last week of June and then are due July 20th. With the change and testing for the mod and the availability of Tyler staff, staff will come out about a week or two later than they had originally anticipated, and the bills will go out roughly 2 weeks, 10 days later than normal. If the utility mod does not work, we will be unable to provide the summer sewer credit for the second quarter of 2023.
Questions? Trustee Jan Miller.
Were you successful when you first started the Tyler Munis in the first billing with Tyler Munis for the water sewer?
Yeah, I believe the first quarter billing went very successful. There were some issues with people getting extra charge that they shouldn't have, but that wasn't unexpected as there are 6,000 accounts. But overall, I would say it's pretty successful.
Good. Sounds like positive note.
Trustee Nyrider.
Just a question for my record. We have, regarding the summer sewer service credit, we are keeping things the same. Am I right at this point? No decision has been made to change that
Went back.
to the old way, correct? Okay,
correct.
I just want to make sure that's okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Trustee Hudson.
I'd just like to say nice job. Thank you. That's great news.
Thank you.
I was going to echo that and say, I know there were some questions if we were going to be able to get in a testing period and if we would have to run without one, but I do appreciate all the work and background that went into getting this set up and scheduled so that we know that we have more confidence when these bills are put out and know that we have like we had mentioned before, a high degree of accuracy. It's important that these are accurate and that we start to rebuild that trust for the residents of our sewer and water services to know that we are making sure that the bills we put out are proper, accurate, and the new modules are tested so that they remain so. So I appreciate all your efforts in doing that.
Thank you.
All right, then that takes us to new business item F, which is the Economic Development Commission Strategic Platform. And I think presenting on this one tonight is Trustee Pieper.
I'll keep it short and sweet because I know we have a long night still ahead of us. So the Economic Development Commission, when I was appointed chair of it, it pretty much had no purpose other than giving out $10,000 loans to businesses at low interest and had not met for several years and only met to give out those loans. So with all of this talk of the 2050 plan and really trying to be proactive about developing the right kind of economic development, the commission partnered with EDWC and revamped the purpose of the commission. After many meetings, the commission have put forth these pillars, which is our strategic platform that we're putting in front of you guys to now have approved.
So this is on the agenda tonight for our approval?
Correct.
Okay. Anything else to add?
I mean, it's pretty black and white on the pillars. I think we did a great job of forming very clear definition of what the commission looks like, its purpose, its objective, and how we can come alongside the village board and, I don't know, make our community a better place.
Questions?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the strategic platform as it appears here.
Second.
Thank you, Terry.
And then I would like to just make a comment.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Discussion, trustee Kaminsky.
Yeah, I think this looks really neat and it's much further than that committee has ever gone. But it looks like you've got a lot of work ahead of you. I don't know if you have a timeline on this, but I know this is not gonna be a short one. But it's a start. Let's get going on something. And I just really like that it's directional and has specific goals and I think it's great.
Thank you, Terry.
Further discussion on the motion to approve. Trustee Chan Miller.
Trustee Pieper, so we are, this looks wonderful. It's very organized. It does say revitalize Village Center District, part of the community. Are you planning on having any public hearings and input, public input, actually?
That is much further down the road. Right now, we are just developing a new purpose for this commission. So we need this approved before we can even begin that. That's way further down the road. But yes, we will follow all legal guidelines.
And have listening sessions or whatnot.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and so one of the other guidelines, that's a good segue, in the Muni Code, the Economic Development Committee has 7 members. So are you going to be adding to that? The including would be one member from the Germantown School District.
Absolutely. But we need this approved first.
Great. Thank you.
Further discussion? Yes, Planner Etzhoff.
We're going to be best friends.
You mean we're
More than you are right
mean we're
now.
not already? My questions are, and maybe they're more rhetorical given where you're at this point, and it has to do with implementation. First, how do you anticipate interacting with in both the Plan Commission and the board with respect to development proposals that are brought to us by somebody else and those that are initiated by the village? And then the second question is, how do you intend to staff the committee, the commission?
Well, the commission has several open spots right now. As soon as this is approved, then the president will appoint new people for those seats to answer that question. We have received several applications, I think 3 or 4 so far, for those empty seats. And then I'm really glad you asked the previous question. So the Economic Development Commission would actually serve as a hub. Right now, if a developer comes to the village and has, wants to spin off an idea, wants to propose something, see if it's even viable, what do?
You go to Jeff.
Yeah.
Well, typically it's initiated at a staff level to discuss feasibility to begin with, and then it blossoms from there.
Yeah, so this commission could actually serve as a, not so much formal, but as like a buffer before it goes to the planning commission or the village board. I would like to see us work very closely together. I would like to, I guess, this commission to assist you, help you out in those situations when developers do come. So it's more of a formal process for developers to follow rather than, I don't know, where do we start? Call Jeff? I don't know. Should we call Steve? I don't know. Who are we going to even meet with? Where do we even start? You start here.
So does somebody call you?
I think they would go mostly through Steve and then he can say, well, here's the. we can
Or
put
through
out-
Jeff?
If I
That's the
can,
question.
if I can add, I think where I think having the economic development commissions involved is that, I think the developers will typically still be, just because that's what they normally do, coming to staff, calling Jeff or calling me and making that initial contact. But one of the things that's challenging for staff is when companies come in and you know, for example, we have on the, a proposal under item H tonight that we're going to be talking about in closed session. And oftentimes there are tight timelines, and they're looking for immediate feedback. And without having established policies in place, where, you know, we know what the village board has laid out a framework. It can be difficult for staff to kind of provide an answer, or we're kind of going out on a limb that we don't know 100% until we are able to meet with the board of what the board is going to support. So I think having the Economic Development Commission kind of put that together and at times act as a sounding board will be really helpful to us.
And this is still in the baby stages right now. Right now, we're just forming our purpose, our mission, and that will all be coming later on. So it'll be more clearly defined as we work with EDWC on this. But I do think it's going to be somewhat of a relief for you as well. And we will partner together with both the Planning Commission and the Village Board very closely. Like I said, we're going to be best friends.
I look forward to that. One of the things that is important to me personally is that in the 2050 plan, in our implementation section, we do have an economic development chapter, and there are a number of tasks in there that are, they're proactive in nature and they're important, and they really need to be tackled. And they include things such as taking a look at tax incremental financing, and not only looking at, for example, the how it's performed in the village of Germantown historically, because I know we've had a lot of great success stories with that. But it's also been called into question fairly regularly at board meetings. And one of the policies or tasks in the plan is to look into alternative financing mechanisms to TIF. And frankly, I think that should be one of the first things that your group might get involved in, to help you get your collective legs as a commission before you start getting real proactive in terms of specific development proposals.
Yes.
The
I
other
completely
I'm
agree.
sorry.
I completely agree with you.
The only other concern I have is when I say, how are you going to staff it? I don't necessarily mean just the commission members. I know how these things operate. There's always a need for somebody here at Village Hall to do legwork. And that's my biggest concern is, am I inheriting
No.
another commission to deal with? And I know in your pillars or in the supporting information, there was talk of creating a budget for the commission to carry out your functions. Is that going to be a budget that's separate from the community development department? I mean, again, all sort of rhetorical questions at this point, but I think important ones that
No,
need to be addressed.
regarding the budget, I want the EDWC credits that the village currently has. I want it moved to the Economic Development Commission. But again, I'm speaking on this as only one member of the commission. That is my hope. And my biggest want, I guess, for this commission, I want to be proactive with the developers. I don't want them to have to come, we wait for them to come to us. I want to be proactive and find the right developers for the right fit. I want to be able to pick from 3 or 4 developers. I want them fighting over these areas of redevelopment in Germantown rather than having to settle for this one lone developer that we have to settle with because that's all we have coming forth to us. I want them to be fighting over Germantown.
Well, that would be interesting.
Be different.
The last comment is, I'm curious if the committee in forming your pillars and your platform considered organizationally what other communities around us do and have done and how they're structured, because there's communities who play more of a hands-off role like we have historically, that funnel information to those who are coming to look for it. And then there are those that are proactively reaching out acquiring land on behalf of the community, with stacking of various financing programs, redeveloping, things of that nature. You know, do you know where we're headed in that regard?
Um, do I know where we're headed? No. Do I have a vision? Yes. Will it be fine-tuned over the next several months? Yes. I can tell you that outside of, in my spare time, I've reached out to the mayor of Mequon. I've reached out to the president of Sussex and the village president of Jackson. I've reached out to several people and have picked their ears or picked their brain on how they've gotten their projects done, what led them there, what work they did. So yes, an EDWC is actually doing most of the legwork in looking into other communities, their economic development commissions, and comparing it to what we've got going right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, in the baby stages, but this is just the mission right now. This is just our goal. But we'll fine tune it throughout the months. And no, you don't have to come to all the meetings. And no, I won't waste your time.
With a lot of emails.
I don't have to come to all the meetings.
Maybe.
See, you know,
I'll bring
my
pizza.
wheels there's a lot of things that need to be.
I know, you are a very busy man, and I'm not going to take advantage of your time and put more on your plate. I promise.
No, frankly, I'm more interested in, as you probably recall, for this budget year, tried to get a position, economic development position in the budget, and it was
I know.
taken out.
Yeah.
It was relegated to an intern position, and then it was tossed out altogether. I think that if you're going to be successful, somehow we need to address that with additional support, whether that's buying more credits through EDWC, which may be the most efficient process, or as some communities do, hiring somebody specifically to deal with economic development, somebody who is trained in that area, to get the biggest bang for the buck.
How about I put that on the next meeting's agenda?
What's that?
We can look into options. We can ask Christian from EDWC. We can explore options. Maybe reach out to colleges and see if there are interns that can get credits for college instead of we pay them.
Well, that's great. Anything that we can do in that regard would be good. So
I'll
with
try my
that,
best.
I don't have any more comments.
Further discussion.
3 minutes is all.
I, for one, applaud the work that's been done so far. I think that it moves the committee itself from what it was to what it can be, and I'm hoping with your leadership that that vision becomes more clear and provides a better direction for development that occurs, whether it's within the downtown area, Germantown, or areas that are still slotted for future development. So I look forward to seeing how that committee grows and progresses as you get more information ready.
Thank you.
Further discussion? No further discussion? All those that approve of the Economic Development Commission's strategic platform and willing to adopt it, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None opposed? One opposed?
Yes.
Mr. Myers or Trustee Myers is opposed. Motion carries. Next items under new business are items G, H, and I, all slotted for closed session. Item G is Meridian Germantown LLP, care of Walmart Stores, Inc. versus Village of Germantown, Washington County, case number 22-CV-396. The village board may enter into closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.85 subsection 1 subparagraph G for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is involved, and then may reconvene into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate. Item H, which is Project Guardian proposal. village board may enter into closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.85, subsection 1, subparagraph E, for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whether competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and then may reconvene into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate. And item I, which is Administrator Setting 2023 Performance Goals Update. The village board may enter into closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.85, subsection 1, some paragraph C, for considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and then may reconvene into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate. I would entertain a
Motion to go into
closed
closed
session for
session,
each,
G, H, and I.
and listing whom would be participating in each of those closed sessions.
For items G and H, the village administrator and the village attorney, and I'll be on my own for item I.
All right. And that is okay with the motion to go into closed session?
Yes, sir.
And do we have a second? Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to go into closed session? No discussion. We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Myers,
Aye. Yes.
trustee Nyrather,
Aye.
trustee Baum, trustee Hudson, trustee Kaminsky, trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
trustee Jan Miller,
Trustee abstain. Abstain, she's not here.
Whatever.
trustee Peeper, and President Walter.
Yes. Motion passes. Before we go into closed session and adjourn, when we go back, if we go back into open session, that item will not be televised, but the doors will be open for anybody that wishes to attend. Our next village board meeting will be on June 5th at 7 PM here at the Village Hall Boardroom. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you all for watching, and thank you all for joining us on WebEx. Have a good evening.